Good Friday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner. It is the 3rd of January and as usual I have to tell you this is for educational purposes only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever mentioned or intended doing this little video. And today on this Friday we will start with Apple that has been sold off here towards the end of the year and also started the first trading day of the year, the 2nd of January yesterday, with a sell-off dropping even further, and it has now here on the weekly formed a top and reversal pattern, a doji evening like pattern that is a fairly strong indication of a top and reversal, unless we see Apple today closing way above the peak of this week, meaning way above 253.5, then it could possibly cancel it. But for now, it seems like it is forming this top and reversal on the weekly. There's divergence on the RSI here on the weekly chart also, so indicating uptrend exhaustion, indicating we are likely to see Apple sliding lower in the coming weeks. There will of course be some positive days, but for now it seems quite heavy, and a larger correction is in the cards. How long it can take it down? Well, we could see it down to 230, 220 possibly. If it takes out to 1970 here, well, then there's potential down to around 200 level where we have some strong support. That is also what is amongst others, like Tesla, that we're going to talk about later in another video. That is why also S&P 500 is under pressure. It turned sour again yesterday, closed just above support 5,868 after dipping to this spike down here just around 5,832. It hasn't closed this gap, but if it does close the gap, meaning closing below 5,703, well, then maybe it's not going to be a fantastic January after all. At least then there's a further downside potential. The Nasdaq 100, and of course also Apple is weighing a little bit on that. It tested the support here at 20,896, closed above it, closed above 55 moving average. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, and we are still above the cloud. So for now, I am cautious optimistic, but it could really turn around here today or going into next week if new money is not lifting the market. If we close below the 20,896, then we have established a bearish trend with lower highs and lower lows, and we could see further selling down to around 20,200 and 27 around that, possibly lower in this region here. Of course, the 100 moving average and the cloud area will offer some support. The Dow Jones index is trading in this range area here, or this gap area here, testing actually both the upper side and the lower side. Yesterday closed just above it. We are now close below the cloud, however. We closed below the 100 moving average. There's negative sentiment on the RSI. And that could spell some trouble if it takes out the lows from yesterday and closes below 20,220. Well, then there is a further downside potential, and it looks fairly heavy at the moment. The European markets look a little bit better than the US market. Seems like money is coming in there, lifting the Eurostoxx 50. I closed just around the 200 moving average and just above 49.16 resistance. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence. We are above the cloud, we are above all moving averages, despite the fact that the 55 is declining, dragging a little bit on it. But I think we'll see a Eurostoxx 50 crawling slowly higher towards 5,000 in the next couple of days. Key support at 4,800 here pre-market. We are up about 0.3%, as we can see. So also looking is fairly positive there. DAX also closed higher, trying to get back above 20,000, close actually about 20,000, and I think it will crawl higher in the coming days. No divergence on the RSI. I think we'll see it trying to push above the 20,104, and if it closes this gap here, 20,242, well, then I think we'll see new highs on DAX in January. So it seems like the European market is actually doing better than the US market. Also here pre-market we are up slightly, so let's see where we end today. Very quickly on CAC 40, still struggling, but was also positive yesterday, but it really needs to get back up these above this 74.52 to get back up there, 7,500. Then we have established a bullish trend also on CAC 40. On the FX front, well, we saw a sell-off in euro dollar, testing 102.40, actually dipping to 102 and a quarter. Excuse me. 102 and a quarter, and we can see how on the weekly why that is an important level. Going back to 2022, we saw we see some supports here at 102 quarter. We've talked about it for quite some time. I think we will slide lower in the coming weeks. We are in a bearish trend, but both on daily and weekly. A little bit of bounce here could be expected, but I think we'll see another sell-off fairly soon. So another strengthening of the dollar, despite the fact that we are actually at the moment seeing some divergence here on the RSI, indicating trend exhaustion, but trust the trend, we are in a bearish mode. And also on weekly, no divergence on the RSI, indicating lower levels for euro dollar in the coming weeks and months. Cable took out its low and support here at 124.85. Sell-off resumed and bouncing a little bit this morning, but we can also see that there's potential down to 123. It is not the strongest support, I would say, so there's actually potential down to around 120 and a half, 121, which is these lows here back from Q4 in 2023. We are in a bearish trend, so we are below the cloud, we are below all moving averages. All moving averages are declining, and in coming days and weeks and months, I think we'll see lower levels on cable. Euro sterling, on the other hand, a little bit indecisive, but trying to get above this upper falling trend line here, but as we can see also in the bearish trend. So we say, can they all be falling at the same time? Well, it's a question of timing. I actually think that we will see that the euro sterling has exhausted its downtrend, and I think we'll see some bouncing here in the coming weeks. There's divergence on the weekly RSI, and strong support here around the 82 and a quarter. So I think we'll see it crawling slowly higher in the coming weeks. Moving on to the yen pairs. Excuse me. Yen pairs, dollar yen's trading sideways, pausing a little bit in its bullish trend. There is a slight divergence. You can see the RSI is declining, but we saw higher levels there. So maybe we are in for a bit of correction, possibly down to maybe 154.48 before I think we will see uptrend resuming. All moving averages are rising, so there is potential higher back to the previous peaks here above 160. But it is faltering a little bit. It is the uptrend is a little bit weak, but we are in a bullish trend, but expect a correction. Correction we have seen here in euro yen, still positive sentiment on the RSI, but we are now below all moving averages. We are below the cloud currently. Let's see where we end today. Key support at 159.80. If it takes out that, well, then we will see a bearish trend is being established, and with potential down to 156, 155. Euro yen, Aussie yen moving more or less sideways, but below moving averages, below the cloud. Negative sentiment. I think we'll see a downside pressure trying to push it back to this 95.5 level here in the coming days. And if it does so, I think we'll also see it pushing down to 93.65. It really needs to get back above 95.5 to get back in a bullish trend mode. Correction also in sterling yen, testing the 38.2 retracement here at 194.80. Could bounce. There's a positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating we are likely to see higher levels, but if it moves back below the 193, 192.5, well, then I think we'll see a further selling pressure coming into play here, and we will see the RSI being ending below 40 threshold, which will indicate lower levels. For sterling yen to really try to get back into its bullish trend, well, it needs to close, get back above the 55 and back above the 100 moving averages here. The 200 moving average, the 100 is down here, and then it could build up to a move back towards 200. Moving on to the Aussie dollar that we talked about yesterday, that it could bounce. It didn't really just materialize, but there's still a potential to bounce here. Slight divergence on the RSI. indicating likely bounce here up to test the upper falling trend line. The key will be, can it break above it and move towards the resistance here at 63.35. If it takes out the lows here from the past week or so, well, then there's further downside potential, but I think we'll see a minor bounce at least. Dollar Canada, well, Dollar Canada is still in a bullish trend, but trading sideways, could see a correction. However, there's no divergence on the RSI. These values here is actually higher than this one over here. But we could see a correction if it takes out 143.35. Well, we could see a correction down to around 142.20, possibly lower. But we are in a bullish trend, also short term and medium term, with potential higher. As we can see on the weekly chart, we talked about yesterday, potential up to 146, 147. Sterling Canada in a correction, and what it actually did yesterday, it actually broke the minor support at 179.35, but it actually formed this top and reversal pattern. Here we have a head, a shoulder, and a neckline, and it actually broke bearish out of it, and there is now potential down to 177. But it has found some support here just about 178, which is that the cloud area upper part there, and the RSI bounced off 40 threshold. So I think we could maybe see a bounce in the next couple of days. These areas here is just to indicate the potential downside after this shoulder-like pattern here. If it starts crawling back above 179.35, then I think we will see a bullish trend to resume. Euro Swiss, well, still can't really make it minor, but it is slowly crawling higher, as we can see, but it's not decisive. We are above the cloud, we are in a positive sentiment. There are lower lows here and maybe a slightly higher high, but it needs to break above 94.50 for really pushing higher towards a 95 level. If it takes out this lower rising trend line here, then expect a push back to the 92 level. On the dollar Swiss, that has been on the move, especially also after Euro dollar moved, pushing higher towards resistance there at 91.5, 91.60. And if we're looking at the weekly chart, there's slightly divergence on the daily RSI. You can see it's slightly declining, but we're still in a very strong bullish trend, and we could see it pushing higher here in the coming days, despite the fact that there's some indication of a trend exhaustion. However, here on the weekly, we'll see there is potential up to 92.45, 92.50, but it's testing the 200 moving average at the moment on the weekly. It spiked above here back when it did it last time, so let's see where we are. But I think we are in a bullish trend. We could see some correction, but the overall medium to longer term view is dollar Swiss higher. Also, on the dollar index, we need to take a step back and look at the weekly chart. We can see we're not in uncharted territory, but we're back to these levels here where there's not much indication of resistance. So we're really in a strong bullish trend. No divergence on the RSI on the weekly, potential higher, all moving averages pointing to higher levels, and also on the daily, slightly divergence. This RSI is lower than these ones over here, but so we are indicating slight, possibly trend exhaustion, at least short term, but I think we'll still see it pushing higher in the coming weeks. Gold pushed higher yesterday after getting back above the 100 moving average, testing the 55 moving average and the upper part of the cloud, as we can see here this morning. So that would be key here at the next couple of days. Can it actually get back above it, and especially closing above it? But if it can get back above it, then there's potential up to test the resistance here. And I think then we will see the gold spot and gold future pushing higher towards 2700 and 2721. If it takes out that this resistance here, then there's potential to much higher levels. It will be confirmed if RSI can close back above 60 threshold, so keep an eye on that. But for now, we are kind of on the edge here on gold. On silver, well, possible double bottom pattern. If it moves back above 29.90, it will be confirmed with a potential. And I know there's a lot of Fibonacci levels. So first of all, the sell-off here, well, could give potential to the 61.8 retracement at just below 31, where we also have the 55 moving average coming down, and it will be 200% of this double bottom line pattern here if it materializes. So that's around 31, and then I think we will see a setback. If it takes out the lows here at 28.70, well, then the downtrend will resume towards 28 and 27.70. Copper is still under pressure, still above $4 or 400, and could bounce, but what I will do, though, I will add a horizontal line here. You can see where it's actually spiked to the 400. And if it takes out that, well, then expect the spike down to around 392. WTI crude oil has closed above minor resistance here at 72.82. It closed above the cloud area, RSI above 60 threshold. Excuse me. Confirming the bullish trend with a potential up to 77.60. However, we have the 200 moving average that we're kind of putting a lid on it here, but I think we will spike higher to this area here between 77 and 78.5 in this region. We could see that in the coming weeks. There is definitely some potential for it. Looking at the weekly chart, well, after testing and failing, or trying and failing so many times to actually push lower, it has failed, and I think we could see it testing this rising trend line here, maybe even pushing all the way out to the 55 and 100 weekly moving averages, and this upper falling trend line here in the coming weeks. So it seems like oil is really building up to something, at least here on the Brent crude oil above the cloud. Positive sentiment on the daily RSI, testing resistance here at 76.32. It's actually testing this spike up. Oops, sorry about that. There we are, just around 76.54. But I think here in maybe today or going into next week, we will see it pushing higher towards 80 level, 81.5. You can also see here we didn't get a new lower low here on the weekly chart, so that indicates we could see it pushing higher, getting it back above this trend line here. I could push it up to 80 and maybe a bit more. On the Dutch gas, well, the Dutch gas is in a bullish trend, a little bit of setback yesterday, but positive sentiment, no divergence on the RSI, and weekly also a bullish trend with potential up to these resistance levels here around 56 euros. And we have Henry Hub natural gas in US on New York Stock Exchange, on Dynamics, sorry. Correction again, quite volatile to trade this, so be careful out there. It is in a bullish trend on medium term, so I think we could push higher, but we need a close. We need a close of above $4, and it has failed on several occasions. So a little bit of weakness there on the US nat gas. I think it's correction time in the US 10-year Treasury yields after reaching 463, level 464 resistance. That comes back all the way from this little spike up here, but we are in a bullish trend. But we could see a little bit of correction down to 444, and then I think we'll see uptrend resuming. Looking at the weekly chart, we can also see what's going on really. We are in a bullish trend, testing this, possibly testing this 450. Could dip a little bit below, but that will not change the bullish trend on the weekly chart after breaking above this upper falling trend line. The 2-year did bounce from its support at 415 yesterday, and back above the cloud, back above 55 moving average. That is the key support. If it takes out that 415, well, then we're looking at 4% down here, just above 4%. We could be locked in here in a range between 415 and 435 for the next couple of weeks. On the EuroBund future, this is not the yield we're talking about, this is the future. We saw a bounce yesterday, but it couldn't hold on, got rejected here at the 100 moving average. We could have another go if it takes out and moves above the 100 moving average. Well, then there's potential up to 135 level and the 61.8 retracement. However, if it takes out 132.71, which is the low here from the 30th of December, then there is potential down to the 786 retracement, 131.85. And the UK Gilts, well, UK Gilt is trying to bounce. There is potential up to bounce at least at 93.5. but the overall trend is down with a potential down to around 90, as we can see here on the weekly chart. On Bitcoin, well, really not much to say. Had a fairly okay day yesterday. We closed above the 55 moving average. It still needs to get back above 100,000. If it does that, then I think we'll see a push higher with new all-time highs. Ethereum also trying to get higher here. It needs to close above the 3,500. And if it does, well, then I think we'll see a potential higher towards 37 and maybe even higher. But there's a little bit of resistance there. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and a nice weekend when you get to that. Talk to you again.